What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with my MLB power rankings. We're entering week two of the MLB season, the half weekend, and then the full week of baseball. And you can see it there. We got some big movers after the first week of baseball. Giants moving up 13 spots, Braves after their horrible start moving down 15. So let's get into it. Before we get into the rankings, the stories of the week, those Braves, like I said, 0-7 start. And to go along with it, Jurickson Profar suspended 80 games for PEDs. Not a good sign for them to start off this season. No team has ever made the playoffs starting 0-7. Vladdy and Crochet get locked up for the long haul. Vladdy getting 500 million, which was kind of surprising that the deal got done in season. Crochet, I think the Red Sox kind of had that in mind as soon as when they traded for him, so that makes sense there. Rockies calling up top prospects Chase Dollander and Zach Veen. Veen makes his debut tonight, which is Tuesday night, as I'm making this after about 4 o'clock. Yankees using torpedo bats. That's been the talk of the town in this first week. And obviously, there's other players as well that have been using it as last year and this year, but just a lot of the Yankees are using it and leading the league in home runs. But unfortunately, there are some bad parts to the beginning of the season, and that's injuries. Ketel Marte, Blake Snell, Freddie Freeman, and Colton Cowser are the big names that all land on the IL. And then actually Spencer Arrieta, the starting pitcher for the Astros, broke his thumb playing catch while they were taking batting practice because a line drive smoked his thumb. So talk about bad luck injuries. That is one of them. And then a trade actually took place early. The A's traded Estoy Ruiz to the Dodgers, more than likely to just be a pinch runner. 26 through 30. I think this is kind of where you expect these teams to play out throughout the whole year, maybe a little more. Higher in the rankings at the end if they can figure it out. But the White Sox, of course, in last. Rockies doing Rockies things. Pirates struggling early with the Reds and the Nationals. But the Nationals took two of three versus Arizona. Then they've already taken one against the Dodgers as of Monday night. So the Nationals might be starting to turn that page here. Maybe that could be a team to look out for in these upcoming weeks. 21 through 25, Mariners collapse against Detroit and the Giants. That's why they're falling here. Braves, obviously, we talked about them starting 0-7, but they did play the two best teams in the National League right now, and the Dodgers and the Padres on the road. So maybe give them some leeway here if they can turn it around against Philly and at Tampa. The Cardinals looked awesome to start the season and then just sputtered out, so that's why they're dropping one spot. Marlins looked really good against Pittsburgh 3-1, gave the Mets some games and took one of two from the Braves. And I think the Marlins could be an interesting team here at the beginning of the year because they always play well at the beginning, but then collapse coming into May. Then the Athletics at 25. The series at home against Chicago kind of was a bummer. Home opener in Sacramento, didn't even win a game. But I think this Athletics team can be sneaky good in that AL West. 16 through 20, you have all American League teams here, two out of the AL East and two out of the AL Central. Blue Jays and Rays both move up after some good weeks there. Blue Jays were looking really good until they got swept down the road against the Mets. Just couldn't figure it out there in that one. The Rays, talking about the AL East, 2-1 versus the Rockies in Pittsburgh, taking care of business, but then they go on the road against a better team, don't even take one. So Rays kind of staying put there. Then you have the Angels, who I haven't talked about yet, moving up 10 spots. They've won three straight series to start the year in Chicago, which should have won that one, in St. Louis, which could have been up in the air. And then surprisingly, they take two of three from the Guardians at home. And Mike Trout is looking great right now. If he can stay healthy for 120 games, this Angels team will compete, but I don't think they'll make the playoffs this early. It's too early to tell, but they're looking very good. And then you have two AL Central teams that have got off to a rough start, both at 3-6. Guardians especially, they looked good in the opening series, going into Kansas City and taking 2 of 3. Then they go on the road still to face San Diego and the Dodgers, head out west, and just decide they're going to forget how to play baseball. So it's a rough start for the Guardians there. Then the Twins, kind of the same thing, started 0-3, but rebounded in Chicago, taking 2 of 3. Then 1-2 against Houston this week. So it's a big week early for them, the Twins, because you got 7 games against divisional opponents. Same for the Guardians, I guess you could say as well. And these games are going to matter at the end of the year, so the Twins really need to turn it around quick before this thing gets too out of hand early. 11 through 15, you see some more AL teams in the AL Central, especially the Royals at 14 took two of three, sorry, from the Orioles, and that's kind of why they're staying put here, even though they did lose two of three. I could have put the Brewers ahead of the Royals, probably should have, but here we are. I just think losing three on the road, getting swept on the road to start the season isn't a good look, especially when Nestor Cortez goes back home and gets lit up. But the Brewers are going to be just fine. Astros, Orioles, and Diamondbacks round out the just missed the top 10. Astros, I think, are going to start to come into their own. They're going to have these series where they're going to be really good, like they did against the Mets and the Twins, then have a series they just collapse because they're still trying to figure out after losing all those pieces. Bregman and Tucker, are leading the league right now in a lot of categories, and it's tough losing that production for the Astros. But the Orioles are off to a rough start. Pitching is a huge question mark already. Like I said, Cowser on the IL. This team kind of, I don't want to say due for a collapse, but they are on thin ice already early into the season. Then the Diamondbacks, I think it was more surprising that they went into Washington and didn't win that series. That's why they fall out of my top 10. If they would have won that series, they probably would have stayed at 8, but that one extra loss puts them out of my top 10. In my top 10, you got the Yankees, Giants, Red Sox, Cubs, and Tigers. My Tigers cracked the top 10 after starting 0-3 against the defending World Series champions to start the year. They were in every single game, but then just couldn't pull it out in the end. Then what did they do? They respond well by winning 5 out of their next 6 and 2 of 3 in Seattle. Great. Then they sweep the White Sox with a walk-off winner on Sunday. And this momentum is riding high because it's already Tuesday. Two games happened against the Yankees, and Tigers are 2-0 against the Yankees right now. So things are trending up for the Tigers, where the Yankees are not trending in the right direction this week. Cubs playing some good baseball. Kyle Tucker is a great addition already. Complements Ian Happ in that lineup along with Dansby. The Red Sox adding Bregman complements Devers after his cold start. He is on fire now. And the Giants, they're just clicking on all cylinders. Sweep Houston in Houston, sweep Seattle at home, and take 2 of 3 in Cincinnati. And they get Cincinnati at home again, and then they get the Yankees, which I think could be a very interesting series for both these teams this early in the season. 1 through 5, I don't think it's much surprise, except maybe the number 1 team. I am putting the Phillies there because they did beat the Dodgers, and I think that's enough said at this point. If you can beat the Dodgers, the defending World Series champions, doesn't matter if it's home or away, you deserve to jump them this early. But they're both going to be really good, let's be honest. Both these teams, even the Padres and the Mets, I mean, the top 4 teams you can see here, all NL teams, it's going to be a close race, I think, heading into probably July, August. But I think there's going to be the Dodgers and the Mets are going to start to pull away. Maybe even the Phillies, depending on how those two teams play against each other, are going to pull away from their divisions and compete for the best record, in my opinion. But the team I haven't talked about yet are those Rangers. Rangers taking 3 of 4 against Boston at home, which is a huge win in a very anticipated series to begin the year. 2 of 1 in Cincinnati, and then sweeping Tampa at home. I didn't think they would sweep them. I thought they would win the series, but a sweep is great this earlier in the season. And we'll see how this Rangers pitching staff can hold up because I think that's the biggest question mark for them coming into the season. Obviously, this team is loaded in the lineup aspects, but they go on the road this week, 6 tough road games, tough environments as well. So we're going to see how the Rangers can respond to that. And then the team I kind of overlooked here in the NL is the Padres. Great start to the season, going 7-0 to start the season against 2 playoff teams. And then they just take their first road trip and just kind of sputtered out against the Cubs. Got pitched against well, and then they just blew a game late. But this Padres team is going to be dangerous and competing with the Dodgers, like I said, probably until July, August for that division crown. But that's going to be it for my week 2 power rankings. Check back next week as I'll dive more in depth on some more things as we start to get this season rolling. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.